Despite being the scene of auto racing for a century, despite multiple track changes, and despite the cars of today being entirely and totally different from those of 1920, Spa-Francorchamps remains one of the most popular and beloved racetracks in the world. It's no wonder that the organizers have elected to use this track for the Majors F1 round this year. And while our drivers have been tackling the biggest events in racing all year long, none of the cars have been anything quite like the beasts of modern Formula One. Who can handle the fastest cars on the planet? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the Majors Belgian Grand Prix, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Spa has both history and beauty on its side. The gorgeous mountain forest surrounding this place is as much a joy to look at as the racing on the track itself. Let's take a little glance at it all with our track guide. Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. Less than an hour's drive east from the German border, this Belgian track has come to define racing for many different eras in the sport. It's no wonder it continues to entrance drivers when you look at the stats. The 7 kilometers over the course of a lap includes more than 330 feet in elevation change as it weaves its way through the Ardennes forest. Packed into this is 19 turns, some of which are considered among the most famous in the world of racing. Corners like La Source and Blanchemont have been on the lips of drivers for decades. But by far the most notorious is Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Typically referred to in name by just the first section, it dips low and swings left, then compresses and climbs to the right up a massive hill. The sequence ends with a completely blind crest that sweeps to the left and leads onto the incredibly long Kemmel Straight. The bravery required to be fast through there will pay off towards one of the most popular passing spots at Lacombe. Eau Rouge is exemplary of the rest of the circuit though. Most of the turns are incredibly fast and many include much of that signature elevation change. As jaw-dropping as the track is, you have to remember that this is the modern truncated layout. The old one, raced until 1979, was 14 kilometers in length, yet carried an average speed of 150 miles per hour. Present-day safety measures do cut down on the danger, but even in recent history, the circuit has proven deadly. It's clear why this track continues to be revered and respected by racers the world round. Spa continues to inspire even after all these years. And Adam, I don't know about you, but I am so looking forward both to this evening and to next week's race in the real world here.
Absolutely. This legendary and recently infamous track, the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which will host, like you said, next week's real-life F1 race, has seen many changes over its 95-year history. Slowly being slimmed down from its pre-World War II 9.5-mile cross-country excursion to the current 4.35-mile, 7-kilometer, 19-turn beast we have today. This track still features the largest elevation gain on the Formula One calendar, clocking in at 102 meters or 334 feet. Add to that the Williams FW31 from the F1 circa 2009, the relatively low-powered and low-downforce V8 engine and small-wing chassis in comparison to today's modern Formula One cars, and also 26 drivers on a standing start, and things are about to get really interesting. These older F1 cars had tons of straight-line speed and huge draft cushion, even without the modern drag reduction system, but struggled to maintain downforce in the dirty air, much like today's F1 cars. While a few of the major drivers here have wrestled with this wheel-spinning beast before, many are new to the discipline, and the hotspots for mistakes today reflect that. Expect the bus stop chicane as well as La Source and Brussels to be where most drivers struggle to keep their car straight, while the Kemmel Straight and the entire third sector will be the best passing zones. The major drivers have faced many challenges this season, but this may be their most dangerous challenge yet, Joe.
Yeah, it's like I said, some of the fastest cars in the world that Formula One produces year in and year out. Right now, we are in the final session of qualifying. This will decide the top 10 for the race in just a few moments' time. The drivers have already taken to the track, and we're just getting ready for the first of the laps to be clocked in. And I believe Andrew Waring is going to be the first one to set a time. Now, unfortunately, it looks like two of our drivers have not been able to make it, so they'll be gridded at the back. Not sure which order exactly, but we have Warling Be careful of that. Richardson, Callisto, Espedy, Challoner, Brophy, and Swaby, who are competing here to determine the first 4 rows. So, with Warren coming around Blanchimont now, probably easily flat out here in qualifying trim. He sends it into the bus stop, and the timing line and the finish line will come up very quickly out of this final chicane. Let's see what he manages to put down as the first one across. 48.3. Now, what are others going to do as they follow? Looks like Challoner gets one on the board, but not as fast as Waring. Warling going to slot in behind them at third as well. Espedy going to be the next one across the line. See if he goes any quicker than the first 3. It's a 49.2. No. Cars continuing to slow down as we get farther back. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, Justin Richardson being the next one across the line. He manages to go faster than Espedy into 4th. Lyndon Swaby only good enough for 6th position. Looks like a lot of these drivers are dealing with a little bit of cold tires at the moment. They're getting a lot of wheel spin under braking for these drivers. So Jason Brophy's going to be the next across the line. He's good enough for 6th position at the moment. But with Kevin Hill and Dick Miller not here, these drivers have it all to play for at the top of the field. But one thing to note about this special qualifying session, they're not allowing resets. You have to drive the thing back to the pits to get new tires if you want to go back out again.
And to refuel as well. So if drivers want a low fuel level, as low as you can go to try and get those last few tenths, they've got to come back in and get that as well. Also, worth noting for those not familiar with iRacing that the incidents, which includes off-track, so the track barriers that they have set up, track limits they've set up, can discount your lap time. Only driver that it bit this first time around was Lionel Callisto, as he unfortunately did not set one on the first lap. Only 15 minutes, which isn't a whole lot of time considering they're just shy of 2 minutes per lap around here. So we've now got the UDOX driver of Andrew Waring back for his second lap. It's a 48.3, was good enough for pole last time. 48.305, he's just shy of a tenth quicker. That's going to extend his gap to Challoner by about 2/10, who actually comes in pits this time.
Yeah, so they're going out for 1 lap stints. Both Challoner and Warling, Travis Warling in the 90, are both in the pits. Espedy will be the next one to come across, and he's actually going to pit as well. So a lot of drivers are going to go and do the single lap stint, which I think is going to be the fastest way around. But that being said, Andrew Waring, who did 2 laps, is just out there. And I think that was Lyndon Swaby, who just crossed the line, cannot improve on his time. Lionel Callisto gets across his first time of the day. Good enough. Wow, for 5th position.
Callisto finally sets one and puts himself into 5th. Brophy is going to enter into pit lane. So all 8 drivers now have set a time. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people feel that tactic is the better way to go, but Warren is certainly proving them wrong. Worth noting as well, it's a relatively warm track surface out there, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So even though we saw a lot of cloud cover, which is pretty normal here at Spa, it didn't seem to cool things down too drastically here at the start of qualifying.
No, and I would expect Andrew Warren to be coming into the pits this time by 2 laps of raw pace. I don't think you're going to get much better than that. So the eyes, as we watch Andrew Warren come around this time, it'll be interesting to see whether he does stay out or go in. If he's been staying out on extra fuel, then it's possible that these guys don't quite have their qualifying setups locked in. That being said, Christian Challoner has been struggling a little bit for pace. Now, this isn't his primary discipline, but he has been a winner of so many rounds in the past, and so we expect to see him up there at the top, currently 2nd. But I think pole is up for grabs today. It's not a sure lock on Challoner.
You can see Warren absolutely hustling it in. So at this rate, will we be able to see 3 runs from drivers? Or is it just going to be 2 like we tend to see in real life in the final session of qualifying? You can see trundling down the lane, Andrew looking for his stall as Lyndon Swaby, I believe, is an in-lap himself. So he heads on in to try and get the car set back up. Callisto, on the other hand, I think is still circulating on a fast lap, and it is a fast lap. A 48.8 will promote him onto the 2nd row.
All right, so next up will be Christian Challoner to come across and start his next flying lap. That will be about 6 minutes, 30 seconds left on the clock. So he's only really got enough time to do this and then 1 more flying lap immediately following if he wants to. It's going to be close, though. I mean, these are, yeah, almost 2-minute laps. Yeah, there's no way he can come back in for fuel and tires to get back out. So he's going to have to hope that this one, or if he fueled up enough, the next one is good.
Interesting that drivers have gone this way and not waited until late. So Challenger will be the next one to set a time, as everybody else is just starting their next timed lap. Curious, you know, now that I think of it, since we saw a couple drivers take 2 laps on the first go and come in, maybe it's a bit of a reverse for these drivers. They're doing their 1 fast lap, and then they're going to do 2 this time. So it's kind of split it between them and see which works better.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. We're on board with Christian Challenger right now in that the wing mirror position as we look forward towards that front left suspension of the machine. And these FW31s are really hard to manage around this course. You get super loose through this sector if you've got the car set up to be quick. And so just managing the tire grip and the tire temperature can be really challenging.
The other thing, too, is since we're looking at suspension, the setup of this car. I have to imagine that, big tank slapper there coming through Stavolo for Christian Challenger. I was going to say, I would think that anybody who's managed to make it into this qualifying session probably has a whole team of people behind them trying to set them up, because these are complicated machines.
They're very complicated machines, but most of these drivers have decent teams behind them helping them support. Here comes Christian Challenger through the bus stop chicane. Let's see if we can get on the power well on the exit. Gets a little bit slidey. That might be the difference between a pole lap and not. He crosses the line to 148.55. That's slower than his first lap, so he's going around again. Let's hope that he has enough fuel for a second lap this time by.
It was only slower by a few hundredths as well. He was awful close. Nobody improving so far that's coming through the line. Swaby is going to be next, and he's got a fair bit of room for improvement. Over a second back from Waring. The number 100 car out of the final chicane, a little smoother, but yeah, this is a slow lap for him. So that one, that was his out lap. That's correct. He went on the 2-lap stint for the first time through. So what about Justin Richardson? The 07 down to the line, a 48.870 is his quickest. It's a 48.732. He's going to slot into 4th ahead of Callisto.
And Jason Brophy doesn't look like his last lap counted, so we jump back on board with Andrew Waring, who's just now starting his latest flying lap. I believe he actually might be on an out lap himself, considering he was just in the pits after his 2-lap stint. So he might, like you said, he might be able to fit 2 laps in, though, at the end, because it might go over the clock time, and they might still be able to finish their laps.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and I do believe you're right. Yeah, he should be able to get another one in, because unless he gets to under a minute 50, he will be able to start the next one. So out of Blanchimont, the UDOX driver with the number 1 on his car takes it down into the bus stop, slams on the brakes. Oh, and a big slide through the first apex. Let's see. Is this? It's a 49.0. Yeah, he was way off. He was 7/10 off of his quickest lap. I think that last little bobble hurt him.
Christian Challenger up to pole.
Ooh. So, Christian Challenger throwing down the gauntlet. What about Travis Warling? A 48.5. It's not going to move him. He will stay in 3rd despite being quicker that time by. Swaby up next. Another driver out of the final corner. Looking to improve on a 49.510. And that'll do it. A 49.191. That does improve, but despite a vast improvement, he still is stuck in 7th.
Richardson coming out of the pits, so Jason Brophy will be the next one across the line. Brophy's been struggling a little bit with the management of the tires through the last sector. He crosses the line and goes almost a second slower, so unfortunately Brophy not really able to maximize this qualifying session.
We're in the next one. As he now heads through Fanyes up towards Stavolo one more time. He's got almost 2/10 to make up on Christian Challenger. Christian has really just set an incredible marker for everyone else to try and meet.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how Andrew does here. He did take that that last sector a little bit too deep into the bus stop chicane. So here he comes up again. This was his trouble spot from last lap.
All on the table. That looked a lot more tidy.
Put the inside curb a little bit. Oh, boy.
Oh, and that lap is not going to be counted. He knows he's done. So he comes to a halt. And even though he did take a tow, I believe that means that he is done with qualifying. So Espedy, where is he going to wind up? That one didn't count for him. Next up, it's going to be Warling. It's his quickest. It's a 48.5, but he still stays in third.
So Christian Challoner also is probably, yeah, he's definitely done. He's got a minute left and he's in pit lane. So Lyndon Swaby looks like he's going to abandon the lap as well. So that's just going to leave, Jason Brophy to come across the line. He'll be our last person to complete qualifying.
Espedy is still out there, and it looks like he's hustling the car. Brophy, though, way deep into the last chicane, and that's certainly not the right line. Maybe he's trying to square it off and try for one more lap. He can do this last flying lap if he so desires, and it does look like he is on it as he swings it around La Source. Oh, and Espedy's done. Espedy is absolutely done as he wrecks it. I'm not sure where exactly that was on track.
So all eyes on Brophy then, as he has the possibility. He's going to have to make up nearly half a second to pass Lyndon Swaby for that 7th position, but he's started his lap with the time remaining.
He's 8th out of 8 cars out here currently. He comes down through Lacombe and then through Malmedy, highest part of the circuit. It starts to head downhill from here into Rivage. Long corner. And then No Name, sometimes called Speaker's Corner here. Very tricky, deceptive turn, and that looked pretty decent, although it got a little sketchy off the exit. Now into Pujon. Is he flat out?
No, not quite. He lifted a little bit through the corner.
Down towards the bottom of the track at this point. He's hustling it. I mean, he's got nothing to lose at this point. Might as well go for it. Nobody else to be able to overtake him. And it's his last opportunity. Out of Stavelo. So far, so good. This is looking decent.
Yeah, it's going to come to that last braking zone that he went too deep into last time as well. So this is where he's got the least amount of fuel. So it should be the easiest to brake, but he's got to make sure he gets his brake bias set right.
To the last chicane. Oh, he's very deep once again. That might have sealed it.
Oy.
And a whole lot of wheel spin. Yeah, I just don't think this one is going to do it. He's about 3/10 shy of his quickest. That's going to end our qualifying here for the Belgian Grand Prix. So Christian Challoner taking the pole, but Andrew Waring is going to be starting next to him. Just, it looks like his qualifying pace does not match Christian Challoner's. Will the race pace be any different? This will be a fascinating round here for majors. Let's look at how this qualifying wound up for our top 8. Christian Challoner starting on the pole with Andrew Waring next to him. Travis Warleen will be starting in P3. And then Justin Richardson manages to round out row 2.
Yeah, Lionel Callisto is going to start off on 5th in that 3rd row next to Austin Espedy, who's been very strong with these winged open wheel cars. We got Lyndon Swaby and Jason Brophy rounding out that top 8 out of 10 possible contenders. Reminder that Kevin Hill and Dick Mueller were not here for the qualifying session. They will line up 9th and 10th.
That is our qualifying session done and dusted. So we're going to take a short break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the rest of our pre-race show here for the Belgian Grand Prix of the Majors. Stick around for more racing action. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. We just watched qualifying here for the Majors Belgian Grand Prix, and we're waiting for the cars to grid for the race very soon. In the meantime, we, of course, have some information about the championship for those who have been following this season. So let's start out, of course, with the Drivers' Championship. This is the big one that everybody wants to win. Christian Challener is looking well set to try and claim another World Championship here in the Majors. This one in the Americas region, as last season he won in the European region. Travis Warling's been chasing hard to try and fight him for that, but you can see there's a pretty distant gap here, and it's getting to be later and later in the year. Steve Driscoll has been hanging on. He is possibly able to overtake Travis Warling. All it'll take is a bad result or a few good ones for Steve to maybe try and switch that around. But then look down in fourth and fifth. Wade Hayes and Brian Barnes are incredibly tight for that P4. Just about 50 points between them, which in terms of the points that you get in the majors, that's actually very little. Now, they have a team's championship as well, Adam, and I know that one's pretty coveted as well.
It absolutely is, Joe. And it really is a two-horse race at the top between Kinetic Americas and Unorthodox Motorsports. They're only separated by 484 points. Now, I say only, and that is because it's 500 points for a win around here. So just a win from one of the people on the team could make the difference in who's leading that championship. That being said, down in third is Dog Bear Red, and they're holding a pretty decent lead over Sector 5 Racing for that last step on the podium. But Sector 5 and Dog Bear White are very close together. They are separated by just about, I believe it is about 13 points between those two teams, and so it is very tight between those two guys at the back of the pack. So expect those two teams to be going tooth and nail as we get further on in this championship.
Who have a Legends Championship, as they call it. Now, this is for drivers who are 55 and older, so that they have a lot of different ones here that drivers can compete for, just so everybody kind of has a carrot in front of them and motivation to keep at it all season long. Now, you may have seen Brian Barnes' name in the Pro Drivers, so no wonder he is leading the Legends up with 2,356 points, showing that, of course, age certainly can give you enough experience to really pull one over on those younger guys. Kevin Hill, about 215 points back, is pretty close to Brian Bennett in terms of things, especially Brian Bennett and Rob Gall there with about 20 points, actually less than 20 points separating the two of those. Then you've unfortunately got quite a big gap back to Brian McGreevy, 433 total behind Brian Barnes. But otherwise, that Legends Championship tends to be one that they are eagerly looking to show themselves as a mighty force. They're up in the 55 over. Adam, we do have drivers, of course, that or viewers, excuse me, that are new to this series and might not know what's going on, or maybe viewers that just haven't checked to see what the schedule holds. So why don't you give us our race details?
Absolutely. This is round 10 of 14 of the regular season here for the Major Series. They do have a playoff season that comes afterward, which we will be covering as well. Today they are racing the Williams FW31 around Spa-Francorchamps. It's going to be for 44 laps around here. And they're doing a standing start, which is a very, very interesting thing to take care of for sure. So this is something that you get a lot of practice in the rookie road series, but it doesn't happen a lot in the upper road series. So this will be very fascinating, especially these wheel spinning beasts. They do get one spare car to handle, as well as a 35 incident cap. So they do have to take care of themselves because it's very easy to get some of those incidents around Spa.
And one thing we want to mention is if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. The other thing that we want to mention is that every race has a special charity attached to it. This charity this round is, of course, ChildFund.org. We have a link in the description below if you want to go check them out. Make sure and see what they are all about. And if you're wondering how in the world they raise this money for the charity, well, it's kind of cool, actually. They have multiple chances to try and qualify in the lead up to get into this pro round. If you don't make it the first qualifying, well, you can take more, but you'll have to pay some money. all the money that is paid by the drivers goes towards the charity each round. So a big thanks to the majors for once again going towards a good cause. Right now we're just about, looks like a few minutes away from the cars gridding.
It's definitely going to be an interesting race, Joe. It's going to be very fascinating to see how they're going to handle this. Well, the one thing I'm really excited about is that standing start. I think that's what's going to separate the wheat from the chaff as far as people who've been practicing that throughout these last couple of weeks between Knoxville and now. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see who can tackle this start of the race and do so in a way that can advance their position. But also, with 26 drivers on the grid, that is a big grid for a Formula One race, especially heading on to La Source. La Source is such a tight turn. It's so challenging to get through that with any sort of speed, especially when you've got the tires in up to temperature, much less at the beginning of the race. So expect to see some excitement down to turn 1.
Another cool thing that the majors are doing is if you are struggling in one of these cars, if you like what you see and you want to try it out yourself, but you don't know how to get faster, check out a link in the description below to the Majors Garage, where they'll have setups and all kinds of various help so that you can be as fast as Christian Challoner one day, which I'll be frank, Adam, I'll probably take quite a few months or years for me to reach his level, if ever. So certainly is an incredibly fast guy, as we are again just a few moments away. You talked about La Source, that hairpin. In real life, the run up to there tends to be, well, shall we say messy, Adam?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm expecting today. I mean, these drivers, if the F1 drivers struggle with it, I mean, we saw in 2018 just the struggles that they had going up to there as well. So it's just going to be a real challenge for these drivers heading up to that corner. And then, of course, going up through Eau Rouge and Radion the first time, it's always such an epic scene to see these guys. And especially in these FW31 cars, these Williams machines, they tend to have a very, very good draft effect. So expect to see a lot of drivers drafting each other up towards the last couple of meters of the Kemmel Straight to try and make a pass.
There'll be pitfalls just like every series, and there's going to be some very fun things just like every varying type of racing that this series does. The Belgian Grand Prix has shown up here before, but it's been a little while since they last arrived here. They've done Monza, they've done the British Grand Prix in the past, and now back to Belgium, where I think there was certainly a smile on a lot of people's faces as they saw the new one released. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just awesome to see these cars going around here. It's awesome to see these older F1 cars being chosen. I know that the McLaren's getting a little bit of an adjustment and a buff from iRacing to make it a little bit more drivable as far as the tires are concerned, because that was a big complaint for a while. But seeing these older F1 cars, I mean, I would expect us to probably continue to drive these over the course of the years, because it's so cool to have these majors drivers tackling the pinnacle of motorsports.
Absolutely. Just about 4 minutes left here in the warm-up. For those wondering, the track conditions are actually very similar to what we saw in qualifying. It's 101 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface right now. And that'll probably be another thing that drivers will be grateful for, I imagine, just not having to adjust too drastically going from that qualifying session here into the race itself.
One thing that might catch them out, Joe, is I don't know if you noticed the wind. That was a 20 kilometer per hour crosswind, or a 13 mile per hour crosswind coming from the southwest. That's actually going to affect these aerodynamically dependent cars quite a bit, and is going to make things very interesting going into the sectors. So I'm hoping that their crew chiefs are talking to them about that and about how that's going to affect their turn-ins, and especially when they're going through some of the speedier parts of the course, whether it could blow their cars a little bit loose if they're not careful.
And one thing that we've been kind of discussing before the race, and it's been a big talking point since we watched the previous two regions, and they've had the international region, which is mostly Australia and Asia, and the European region. now we're in the Americas. It seems like two pit stop strategies is the way to go, but math on paper made it seem like that wouldn't be the case. So, I mean, this is kind of weird. Usually, it's not that case where you do all that research before, Adam, and it usually is correct. I'm kind of shocked at this, honestly.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. I mean, the last couple of regions, those two-stop strategies worked, but a lot of that had to do to a lack of consistency and also traffic that came to play a large factor into those last two regions finishes. If somebody could get the one-stop strategy optimized, get a good pace, keep those tires cool, and manage the traffic well, that theoretically is going to be faster. But of course, things don't always go to plan as soon as you start the race.
Boy, we've seen that before in this series and in real life. Just 2 more minutes left to repair if you want any final little tweaks, and now is the time to do them. Those 35 incident points, it is only 44 laps, but for the drivers that are pushing, I do have a few concerns on if we're going to see some disappearing cars.
Yeah, that's going to be something really challenging to manage. But that being said, these Formula 1 cars are really, really sensitive over the curbs, so it's possible that taking the curbs will be more of a risk than just incident points. If you do wreck that car out, you're going to have to get towed to the pits, and Spa is not a short track. So getting towed to the pits is a major penalty, on top of the fact that you end up using your spare car. So things could get to be a real challenge for these drivers, not just on incident points, but if they start racking up those incident points, that means they're taking big risks with the cars, and it could be really dangerous.
So this car, which was actually driven by a world champion, not at that time, but Nico Rosberg eventually going on to claim his crown as world champion in Formula 1, did run in 2009 for this Williams team. Kazuki Nakajima, of course, the other one running for them.
Yeah, this car always very solidly in the points for Rosberg. He was able to be very consistent with it. Not a race-winning machine, but very consistently up towards the top of those positions up there, getting points in F1, and that's no easy feat, especially when you've got the two-car tango that we get going with lots of seasons of F1.
And that honestly probably tells you a lot about what was to come with Nico, the fact that he was able to wrangle it up into points-paying positions that season so consistently. Today, though, 26 cars, going to have a full F1 field, something we haven't seen in F1 for more than 20 years. Actually, I believe more than 25 years since it last appeared. So thankfully, we will have plenty of action to follow for these 44 laps. And with just a few more seconds to go, we'll be gridding up here in just a moment. And we go racing F1 style in the majors. Checkered flag now out in the warm-up. Challenger weaves it around that last chicane one last time. Let's go through our starting grid today. It is going to be Challenger on pole with Andrew Warren starting in second place. Travis Warling will be P3 and Justin Richardson in fourth. Lionel Kalisto starts in fifth with the outside of row 3 going to Espedy. Swaby starts seventh and Brophy with a P8. Mueller will be gridded in ninth and Ellison 10th.
Steve Driscoll is going to start off 11th with Mark Torres in 12th today. Liam Quinn down in 13th position, trapped next to Eric Antilli in 14th. Adam Halleck good enough for 15th in qualifying. Next to him is Nick Kuhn 16th, and we have David Warner in 17th, Brian Bennett 18th, and Wade Hayes and Justin Morton round out your top 20.
It's here, 21st for Bradley Haley with Brian McGreevy in 22nd. Then it's Jimbo Pfeiffer's starting 23rd. Brian Barnes, leader of the Legends Championship, is 24th, and Tarbox 25th. As the lights come up, the engines rev, and the green flag is out. Off the line, Challenger does not look good. In fact, he's very slow, and there's someone in the UDOX cars slipping and sliding around. Everybody has to take avoiding action. Someone gets hit, couple cars off. It is a mess before they even get to La Source.
Yeah, this is what I was concerned about. One driver getting a really bad start is going to affect everybody, but now, there we go, Andrew Waring up to the lead, Christian Challenger in second. It was a battle side-by-side between Lionel Kalisto and Justin Richardson, but they were able to sort it out. Lionel Kalisto up ahead, but Austin Espedy making a pass now as they go up. Oh my goodness, it's 3 wide as they go down Kemmel Straight.
This is going to be a fight for 8th position. Driscoll to the outside. He's going to manage to get ahead of both Torres and Quinn. Challoner still stuck behind Waring, was not able to use his slipstream up to Lacombe to overtake him. A very poor start from the Brit.
Yeah, poor start from the Brit, but fortunately he's still up in that second position, so able to challenge Andrew Waring. But Waring has been so fast and consistent over practice, consistently about half a second faster than Challoner when it came to practice lap times. So if Waring can get out too far ahead, Challoner might not be able to catch him.
Cold tires seem to be biting a lot of people, because even Steve Driscoll was having a hairy moment out of no name, but he caught it and is still in ninth. That's really where the action is here in the mid-pack, as Brophy is caught by Wade Hayes and almost had an overtake on him, but Wade's going to have to wait until maybe out of here, where they get another long run up to Blanchemont down to the bus stop.
It's always a challenge with these cars to try and make a pass. You see that side-by-side balance between Lyndon Swaby and Justin Richardson. Justin falling back right now. Lyndon Swaby able to make the pass even before they get up to the bus stop chicane.
Already hitting that chicane. They're going to stay in order. In fact, we've not seen anybody really able to poke their nose out and make an aggressive move. So it looks like we're going to stay single file as we complete lap one. Poor Travis Warling is trying to limp his car around the track, and nope, he's going to take a tow potentially, as he has another big off. So Richardson's in pit lane. Halleck had to take a tow, and David Warner also in pit lane to take his spare car.
Yeah, and that big ball bolt to start really spread out the field. This is not the same packed up accordion that we saw earlier on. But that being said, Austin Espedy and Lionel Callisto going side by side. Lionel Callisto making a pass on Espedy, heading up towards the end of the Kemmel Straight. He's able to get that pass done before they head into the next set of corners. So Espedy down one more spot from third. He's starting to drop positions.
There's another exchange with Callisto finding himself on the podium now. Looks like Travis Warling did indeed make it into pit lane. I believe we have time to try and check out the replay of that start. Now, I'm going to fit a safe bet that Pollock and Warner were involved in that, so let's watch them first. And let's try and figure out who was involved in starting it. I want to say Warling, since we saw him with a lot of damage.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this started with Travis Warling getting a bad start off the line. We're going to see it here. Yeah, Warling just can't go anywhere. He gets a ton of wheel spin and makes major contact, and then he's just sitting there in the middle of the track, and everyone gets piled up behind him.
Oh, Richardson that he made slight contact with that managed to get away with it. Yeah, and they didn't even touch Warling, excuse me. Dick Mueller wound up in the wall. Adam Halleck as well just got clattered by another car. As we come back live, Richardson is actually currently, where is he sitting? Well, he's well down there. He is in 22nd place. Oh, we had a spin from Nick Kuhn. Nick Kuhn goes around at the bus stop.
He's currently facing backwards. He's able to get it going once again, but that was a sketchy moment for Nick Kuhn. We're going to see the replay here. This is just what I was talking about, heading into the bus stop chicane. It's so easy to get on the throttle too early, and that's exactly what it does here. And just spins him around.
SPD continues to fall as well. Moves down to fifth. Alex Ellis has now overtaken him. So we see live once again. So from a podium position back to fifth. Now, some of this is because I think this is his natural pace, kind of putting him back where he was supposed to be, because he started in sixth and just seems he got a good launch and made his way past the melee.
Yeah, one driver who's really starting to check out is Andrew Waring in the front of the field. He's out to a 1.5 second lead over Christian Challoner. Christian either is managing his pace or just doesn't have the raw pace of Andrew Waring. Both could be true. I know that Christian's been struggling a little bit to get this car underneath him. It's very different from what he does on a week-to-week basis with the Coca-Cola iRacing Series, but he's doing a good job trying to be consistent, tucked in there behind Andrew Waring, and knowing Christian, he'll find his way around this place, and he'll try and start to exploit the weaknesses of Andrew Waring later on in the race, but that means staying ahead of Lionel Callisto and Alex Ellis.
Back to seventh place. Ooh, side-by-side action. That's Swaby being overtaken by Driscoll, who makes a clean move before they get to Blanchemont. He's going to cover him off down into the bus stop. Yes, he does. So no attempt from Linden to try and sneak that one back. You know, honestly, the thing that I put on Christian Challoner is a good sign for him is the car that isn't quite like this, but closest was the Indy car. Remember his run at Road America, where suddenly he was just on it and then wound up winning the race. Oh, we got some problems. Bradley Haley, I believe, out of the bus stop.
Yeah, similar incident that we saw happen before. And
Self-spin. So we now ride on board with him. So that slots him down to 17th. This is Tarbox Jr. just behind him. If he can withstand the wake through Eau Rouge, he'll get a fantastic tow up the Kimmel Straight. Look at how hard it is to stay with the car as he just drops off right where you need the downforce on the car. And indeed, despite getting a nice little pocket of air, he's going to be stuck back in that 18th position.
that was Jimbo Pfeiffer popping out around Brian McGreevy to pass up to the 19th spot, getting into the top 20 there. So a lot of drivers really starting to struggle a little bit with the tire temperatures around here. We're going to jump up to P9. This is the battle. This is Liam Quinn, who's currently got a decent gap over Wade Hayes, and he's tucked in behind Lyndon Swaby trying to get going. But Liam Quinn, another driver who struggled a little bit on the start. It really looks to me like some of these Kinetic drivers just had a trouble getting off the line.
Minlo's not looking too shabby. He started 13th. He's up to 9th. But that is certainly eclipsed by the car 2 spots back. Wade Hayes started 19th and is up to 11th already.
And he actually just made the pass on Jason Brophy up the Kimmel Straight for 10th position. So on this lap, Wade Hayes up another spot, and he's actually gaining on Liam Quinn. So Wade really showing that his qualifying time is not representative of his race pace.
Behind them, you got a nice little battle forming for 11th position. Brian Bennett trying to chase on Brophy. And in fact, as he gets closer and closer, he's going to take a poke down into La Source. He's way shallow into the corner, though. Given plenty of room by Brophy, who goes the long way around. And so Bennett will capture P11 with that move.
Let's see whether or not Brophy fights him back. He's going to have to wait until after Radion and Eau Rouge, but as you can see, it just gets so tight up there. But he's got a decent run here on Brian Bennett. Let's see whether or not he pokes his nose out. He's actually going to stay in line and actually pop out from behind Brian Bennett. I think he knows that he doesn't quite have the pace to challenge him.
Lionel Kalisto lost 3rd to Alex Ellis this lap as well, down into Lacombe. Another slipstream pass. Alex moving up from 10th to 3rd. Looking very, very handy in that 225 machine. For those following the championship and wondering how that is looking currently, well, bad news for fans of Travis Worley, who came into this round 2nd in points. He's still circulating, but he's currently 23rd. I think the only bit of comfort is the fact that he is on the lead lap, but there's no full course cautions in this series, on this round.
Yeah, not to mention that, Joe, but he's also circulating at 2 seconds per lap slower than our leader, and our leader is currently 19 seconds behind Travis. So even though Travis has stopped and gotten that spare car and is going out there, as we look at Andrew Waring, Andrew circulating very quickly, but as we talked about, that gap to Christian Challoner, wow, that was a twitchy moment from Waring coming off of the bus stop chicane. His gap back to Challoner still right around 1.5 seconds. Looks like Challoner's maintaining that gap.
If you want to follow the action out here and we don't have the cameras on your favorite driver, go check out gsrc.tv and you can see all the live timing and scoring of every car on track whenever you want. 25 of them out there today. I called it 26 before. Apparently we are one shy from our scheduled maximum field. Closest battle that we've got right now is currently for that 11th place. Remember, we saw Bennett overtaking Brophy. Well, looks like Jason's holding with it, but now Tilly is starting to gain.
Yeah, and this is a very good moment. He's actually going to break out before they get onto the Kimmel Straight. This actually might make him susceptible to an out-braking maneuver. Let's see how this handles.
Of them, and I think it looked like Bennett kind of gave that one up partway down the straight. While that was happening, Kalisto lost another one. Espedy moves himself up into P4. Look at that one, because that is a major position, and it was another slipstream maneuver up Kimmel Straight. This really does seem to mimic real life. That's where we see a lot of the passes here in the real world. Just gets a good run. That yellow car of Kalisto has no answer.
And he jumped out at just the right time to get by. It would have been nice to have been able to be there a little bit earlier as we look at Austin Espedy being chased by Lionel Callisto now that Callisto got past. But Espedy would have preferred to be able to take the actual racing line into the turns following the Kemmel Straight. But Callisto looks like he's got a high downforce setup on that machine, which makes him very susceptible on the Kemmel Straight, but very strong through the twistier sections of the course. So as you can see, Callisto very strong through these corners. Oh, Espedy overcooks it.
He manages not to hit anything, but he's going to have to do a little K-turn here and finally manages to get it going. He falls to 8th after that unfortunate error. He's going to be down with his teammate Liam Quinn, the other Kinetic driver back there in the 24. Quinn's in a little bit of a battle of his own. That's Wade Hayes that you're seeing with him.
Wade's probably he thinks better of making a move before they hit Rouge and Radion, but he's tucked in right behind him. If he can get a good exit off the corner, which he can, he might try and make a move here. Quinn can't really decide where to go, takes it the middle of the track, so Wade Hayes has to go to the inside. Let's see whether or not Quinn challenges him in braking. No, Quinn backs off early.
Drivers may be feeling at least a little bit confident about being able to take a position back if they want to later. It's a lot of give and take, and more giving than I would have expected. Ooh, did we have a problem for Justin Morton just now?
Yes, we did. Yeah, Justin Morton in the number 9 car. Looks like he missed his braking point on the end of the Kemmel Straight by quite a bit. He had to go straight through, and he had to take a cut course penalty. Here we see him on the Kemmel Straight. Let's see him under braking here.
I think he's going to be grateful for this escape road that they'll have. He recognized it early. Credit to him.
Yeah, if he didn't, that thing was going to go around and he would end up in the inside wall. We saw a wreck like that in the international region, and that was a brutal incident. But Justin Morton able to keep going, but he did, I think he didn't lose a spot to Dick Mueller, but he did lose all the time that he had gained on Dick. So now sitting down in the 15th position, chasing down Dick Mueller for 14th.
Right now, your top 3 on the podium are Warren, Challoner, and Ellis. And they're pretty well separated from one another. Not really a lot of battling. That 3rd place has changed at least a couple times so far this race. Callisto, last one to hand that one over. Challoner, of course, was our pole sitter and is keeping Warren in touch. I'll give him that. It's only 2 seconds between them. Well, it looks like we might have a battle for 12th in the mid-pack.
Yeah, Jason Brophy is just not enjoying himself out there today. His race pace is not what his qualifying pace was to get up there in the top 10. And now Eric and Tilly pulling out before they hit the Kemmel Straight. They're going to go side by side. But yeah, Brophy backing off just a little bit there to let Tilly go by. Looks like Brophy's just not enjoying this set of tires. I don't know whether he locked them up at some point. He's just got it too hot, but his race pace is just not there right now. But Tilly climbing his way up. He's gained 1 position. We're going to go to P3, though. The battle's very tight between Ellis Torres and Lionel Callisto.
Was tighter for Callisto, but he had an almighty save coming out of No Name. We get a replay of on board for the number 2 car out of that quick left-hander, that downhill left-hander. Here we go. We're going to see it here. Watch this. There is very little runoff on either side out of this turn, so he did a good job catching this thing.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Gets on the AstroTurf, gets very loose. And if he doesn't catch that thing, it snaps and goes straight into that inside wall. And that can cause a big issue. We jump towards him live right now. Mark Torres is falling off from Ellis, though, having made the pass on Callisto.
Good position down for the number 2 machine. Almost looked like he straddled the curb there because the car looked completely fine until pretty late on the exit. Seemed to come out of it from what we could see. Ooh, Steve Driscoll. Immense pressure coming from peg leg behind him. Lyndon Swaby coming into La Source. Was able to get right underneath his rear wing, just wasn't able to do anything with it.
Yeah, Lyndon Swaby in the number 100 machine currently has a great run on Driscoll as they go up towards Kemmel Straight. He's going to be able to break out and get by. It looks like Driscoll's going to try and hold him off. You can see him there in the back of your screen. And it looks like, actually, Driscoll's going to try and go back under him. No, he's not. He's going to back it off there. So Swaby able to make the pass on Driscoll. Driscoll thought about challenging him back, but I think it's probably a little bit too early for that. Lap 9 out of 44.
Close to the quarter of the way mark, though. The third mark is what we really want to see, with it being a two-stop strategy. If they're breaking it up into equal thirds, I don't dare do math on 44 divided by 3, but I know Adam's got a lot of that information tucked away in his notes. On board now with Lyndon Swaby looking back at Steve Driscoll, and that kinetic car is certainly leaving him behind.
Yeah, we're looking for pit stops around lap 15 for the two-stop runners. If anyone wants to try the one-stop, it'll be around lap 21 to 24 for those guys. So we're about 5 laps out from our first pit stops around here.
Becoming kind of similar to what we've seen in past majors races where they get modern F1 cars out on track. It is, Adam, it seemed to be a game of who makes the least mistakes out there.
Absolutely. These cars are really difficult to drive. If you ever have an opportunity to drive these iRacing Formula One cars, or just any Formula One car in any discipline, anyone who jumps in those cars just for a test drive will tell you that those things are a beast. They're twitchy, they're challenging, the braking is very, very difficult. It's really hard to get the maximum amount of lap time out of these things, and that's what makes some of these drivers some of the best in the world. Taking a look at the battle right now between Brian Bennett and Eric Antilli for the 11th position. They're coming up to Rouge and Radeon right now.
And that is Bennett, who is being chased currently. Ooh, he's got a fantastic run. Antilli's going to have a great opportunity. Oh, that was a late move. Still gets the inside. Antilli could finish it up, and he does. Outbreaks him into Lacombe. Bennett gets demoted to 12th.
I don't think Antilli's going to be very appreciative of that one. Bennett making the slow move over to the left, trying to cover off Antilli from making that pass. Antilli's still able to get it done. But Brian Bennett was pretty far to the right of the track when he crossed over. And yeah, I'm not sure if it was in reaction to Antilli or not, but it's going to be really sketchy for sure. But
inspiration from Max Verstappen for sure. So taking a look at Christian Challenger here in second place. Let's see how he and Waring pair up, because you may have noticed that Challenger took the fastest lap last time through. And indeed, seems like he's gained on every lap but one, but it was critical because it was a half a lap quicker for Waring on lap 6. I'm not sure if there was a mistake from Christian that time through. Let's see as they come across how that changes. Oh, and Waring was quicker this time, so he responds to the purple lap that Christian set last time.
Yeah, it's very much about managing your pace out there. Christian definitely feeling more comfortable in this machine with the more laps we have. The temperature actually has gone down. We're getting a little bit of overcast starting to come in here. It's gone down to about 98 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 Celsius, so just down 1 degree Celsius from where we were before. But that's enough to really help you keep these tires a little bit cooler on this track, and that can give you a lot more lap time if you know how to extract it from the car.
Wind has not died down a whole lot, though. It is still 13 miles an hour blowing around out there. Getting close to the first pit window opening, as Warren certainly using all of the track coming out of No Name, not as afraid about getting into that AstroTurf as we saw with guys like Kalisto. Oh, and is he? Yes, it looks like he might be in the wall here.
Oh, this was a twitchy moment. Yeah, we're going to see. He's still trying to recover that machine. He's able to do so safely. But he fortunately was able to keep it out of the wall, but he was loose for a good long while after the Kemmel Straight. This happens
out of Lacombe itself instead of coming out of Malmedy. It looks like he's going to heat up the tires with some wheel spin. Watch this. It's a quick chicane here, and he's got to get the car going, but you're going to see a twitch, maybe a little too much curb. Maybe that heated him up. Oh, yeah, and as soon as he turned it in, look at that thing snap on him. He didn't hit anything initially.
Yeah, as soon as you spin those rear tires up, you get a lot of heat into them. And so you have to take the next corner very gingerly. You'll lose a lot of time, but it'll keep you from spinning around. It's one of the scariest things about this car. They do not have the same amount of downforce that the modern 2020 F1 cars have. They're running with a lot less. I'd have to look at the stats to see just how much less, but especially on the rear end, look how much smaller that rear wing is compared to what we run today. It's making a lot less downforce.
As we take a look at the battle for 7th, Steve Driscoll with Espedy.
Oh no! Oh, huge incident from Espedy. He hits the inside wall hard. It snapped on him coming over Radion.
Wait for 1 second to see how Driscoll is doing, and Espedy bends it, coming out of Radion. So he should still have a spare car, but I anticipate this will put him a lap down. You can see he's already in pit lane. Back up at the front, Andrew Waring, continuing to extend the gap over Challenger lately. It's back up to 2 seconds now.
Yeah, this pace is really impressive from Waring, and he knows how strong Challenger is late in the race. The more gap he can pull now, the better of a chance he has at keeping that gap over Challenger as they get closer towards the end of the race. We know that Challenger is going to be pushing very hard on pit entry, so that's going to make things very interesting here. Now we're about 3 laps away from pit stops, 2 laps away this time by, so yeah, things are going to be very tight between these two drivers for sure, and I think it's going to be interesting to see who's going to have the advantage here.
Interesting as well is that the wins are clustered this year as Challenger sets another fastest lap, 48.7, as the fuel lightens on the car.
And Andrew Waring just set his personal best as well. That lap of 48.862 versus Challenger's 148.792. So Challenger responding, Waring responding. They're just duking it out as far as lap times are concerned. This is awesome to watch them do this. We're on board with Christian now.
Mueller once again to real-life Formula One, where it is a chess match at 200 miles per hour. We're right on board with Christian, really wheeling this car. As I was saying before, the wins are very clumped. That's mostly due to Christian Challenger, as he's taken 7 of them. But you look at Travis Worling and Steve Driscoll, they've each got 2. I was looking down, and Waring has not won yet, interestingly. If he does manage to stay out front, this will be his first victory this season.
Wow, the gap saying very steady right there at 2 seconds. This is really impressive stuff to see. It looks like Waring's tires are not behaving as well on low fuel as Christian's are. Christian is gaining through the twistier sections of this course, and he's gained quite a bit, almost 3/10 now as they close in towards the end of this lap. So it'll be interesting to see whether this pace disparity through these twisty sections stays the same after their pit stops.
We are now getting ready to start lap 14. Waring coming up on some lap traffic. Well, this is Travis Worling behind him, having started on the row just behind him. The great starter is now ready to be lapped.
Challenger with another fastest lap this time. Looks like Worling's actually going to concede traditional blue flag style for F1 and let both Waring and Challenger go by. So Travis Worling, very sportsmanlike move there to let those two go by. But if you're wondering why we're talking about these two guys and not the rest of the top 5, well, Alex Ellis is 8 seconds behind Christian Challenger. So these two guys have broken away to a 10-second lead.
A lot of the field has spaced out. We're at that point of the race where everybody's just trying to put them down. We watched one of our kinetic cars swinging around. Excuse me, it was actually a VRS car. That's Alex Ellis on screen currently.
Oh, interestingly, Eric Antilli into the pits on lap 14 this time by. So he's our first official pit stop taker.
It's a satellite car that we are watching right now. Of the number 225. Started this race, as we mentioned earlier, in P10 and is looking at what could be a good podium. His main chance of that not happening is Mark Torres, as he's less than 2 seconds behind him. And of course, his own self, the driver in the cockpit has the biggest impact on where you wind up in this race.
So it looks like Waring's going to go around another time. And it looks like Christian Challenger going to go around another time as well. So both of them going around one more time. We'll see whether or not they pit on this next lap. Looks like Alex Ellis as well, but it's tight in P11 between Dick Mueller and Jason Brophy, who continues to fall back.
Lap there for Christian Challenger. But these two back here in the middle of the pack is Brophy in the yellow machine, and that is Dick Mueller just behind him in the white colored car. The final chicane. Mueller looking pretty smooth as he gets the power down, trying to pressurize the 372 into a mistake. We are now on to lap 15. Who is going to be an early starter here? That was definitely wheel spin, though, out of Dick Mueller.
Yeah, definitely wheel spin out of Dick Mueller. He took that corner so steep. He took it at such a sharp angle. They couldn't get the power down. It's one of the biggest struggles that we get there going into the source. And so unfortunately, he's too far back to take advantage of Brophy this time by. But yeah, that was a scary moment. It's a good thing he kept it straight.
What I'm quite impressed with is Robert Tarbox Jr. He started 25th. He is up to 16th right now, as you see him come down in traditional Williams livery from the Toyota days.
Yeah, doing a great job, just being very consistent right now. Down in the 16th position. He's got 3.5 seconds up to Bradley Haley up in front of him. And then up in front of him is Justin Morton. Justin, remember, he had his own spin, but Justin actually started in the 20th position. And Justin Morton, even after his spin, is still up 6 positions from where he started, up to 14th. So Justin also doing a good recovery drive himself. And our leaders are in the pits. Andrew Waring and Christian Challenger, same lap in the pits.
Lap 15 is the magic number. Also got Mark Torres in. Callisto stays out. Driscoll stays out. Wade Hayes is in. Liam Quinn stays out. A little bit of mix and match here.
It's going to be interesting to see who wins this battle off. It's definitely going to be Andrew Waring out. Christian Challenger out as well. Fairly quick stops from both of them. Andrew Waring 8.7 in the box. Christian Challenger 8.9. But Christian a little bit quicker on pit lane. So he's going to keep that gap down to about 1.4 seconds once they come off of pit lane. But that being said, Andrew Waring has Liam Quinn up ahead of him to tow him up the Kemmel Straight. Christian Challenger has no help.
Yeah, but do you want to be in the tow, or do you want clean air in front of you?
It's a wonderful question. We're about to find out the answer here, as Andrew Waring is going to have to tackle Liam Quinn, who's probably going to pit this next time by unless he's trying a one-stop.
Really want to see if anybody's daring enough to try that. It's way wide down through Rivage. Liam Quinn certainly struggling on those older tires. Waring not able to gain like you would have expected, despite being off the apex there, was Waring.
Remember that they're having to warm these tires up off of pit lane, so there's a little bit of time that they're going to be losing to the drivers who are even out there on the worn tires. So it's gonna be about a lap before we'll see Waring really start to pull on Liam Quinn.
We're now waiting on Ellis, Callisto, Driscoll, Quinn, Bennett, Brophy, Mueller, Morton, Haley, Tarbox Jr., and a few others. Ellis is going to elect to pit this time. Callisto is not, curiously.
Well, Callisto staying out, so that'll make things very fascinating. So let's see whether or not he's deciding to go with that single stop strategy that seemed to work well on paper. I mean, he's got plenty of clean air up ahead of him, but look at this. Andrew Waring gaining a lot on Liam Quinn this time around. He's definitely going to be setting up for the pass as they get up to Kemmel Straight this time by.
Another one that is not pitted. Bennett stays out. Brophy stays out. So does Dick Mueller and Justin Morton. There's actually a fair few that are going to try and stretch this as long as they can in the first stint, as we got a great run. And the Udox driver makes easy pickings out of Liam Quinn.
and that draft gained him 3/10 on the Kennel Straight alone. So definitely want to be in the draft as the answer to the question when it comes down to what's the quickest way around.
At least with this one, we can't say that DRS is too powerful today. So certainly is showing that the passing can be done naturally. As the drivers plunge downhill one more time. Tell you what, P7 is looking interesting between Brophy and Mueller.
Yeah, they've caught up to the back of Brian Bennett as well, and Brophy has not had an opportunity to pass on track yet, so I'm curious to see how he's going to tackle catching up to the back of Brian Bennett here. Now remember, these three guys have yet to stop, so that's an interesting pit strategy as well. Currently lap 17 out of 44. Lionel Kalisto's into the pits from the lead. And it looks like Steve Driscoll's going to go around one more time. So a lot of different fuel strategies here. And look at this. Brophy right tucked up behind Bennett.
What we want to see, though, we want to see the variety and strategy.
No way.
Side by side. Oh, he's heading to the pits. That's what's going on there.
Andrew Warren with the fastest lap of the race immediately following his pit stop, a 148.713. That is a tenth and a half faster than Christian Challenger's previous fastest lap.
This is more drivers than I expected going for the one stopper. Brophy gets promoted up to 5th, at least temporarily. Mueller is 6th. They might swap that around here because it looks like Mueller's got a great run, but that looks like a little bit of a lift.
It definitely does to me too. Mueller lifting a little bit there. He's been stuck behind Brophy for a good 5 laps at this point. Maybe he thinks that Brophy's pace is enough to carry him forward, and maybe Mueller is really thinking about that one-stop strategy.
Laps into a 44-lap race. Just about to that halfway mark. I'm with you. I think that we're seeing a number of drivers just try to stretch it that long enough and see what it nets them with very little to lose.
So Christian Challenger definitely not up to pace on this full fuel. He's definitely set up the car to be lighter fuel, so towards the end of the race, because he has currently lost about a full second from Andrew Waring since the pit stops, and he's still got Liam Quinn in front of him. So Christian Challenger really struggling to get by Quinn onto this full fuel load. And Liam Quinn, if he's going for that single stop, we'll find out this time by, because I don't think they can get much farther than this on a single tank of fuel. And Liam Quinn still going to go by, playing a good rear gunner there for Andrew Waring. So fascinating stuff from Quinn for sure. Playing a good strategy game.
Around the source we ride on board with Christian Challenger. Let's see what the speed feels like as they take it through one of the most famous corners in the world. Eau Rouge at the bottom, Radion at the top. He's going to stay within the slipstream, but I don't think he's got enough to make an attack. He's going to close in, and he's going to run out of straightaway. So 37 has to stay in P4. Probably getting a little bit flustered now, knowing that UK and I driver running for Kinetic Racing is not interested in moving out of the way, because there's no blue flags for the 24 right now.
Yeah, fortunately for Christian, he's not losing that much time to Waring right now. He's only lost about 3/10 in that turn alone. So it's really back and forth here, and Quinn's car not looking very happy on those old tires. You can see he got a little bit loose into the corner, and look at this. Quinn's actually going to pull over and let Christian go by.
So Quinn maybe just interested in running his own race, knowing that his fight is not with Challenger. We're getting close to lap 20 now. Driscoll still our leader, with Waring about 5.5 seconds back. Driscoll has yet to stop, and it won't be this time as he keeps going.
Yeah, the next time for these guys to come in is going to be in the next 3 to 5 laps for the one-stop runners. They'll be stopping around lap 21 to 24, so currently on lap 20. Expect next time by to, you know, a couple of times after that for Driscoll. So a lot of drivers trying to stay out and do this. We got Steve Driscoll, who's currently in first. We got Liam Quinn and Dick Mueller fourth and fifth. And we have Jason Brophy in seventh and Justin Morton in eighth, going for that one-stop strategy from the back of the pack. That seems to be working out for him at the moment.
Another cool tidbit is we've actually got all 25 cars out and running right now. Warner, Espedy, and Halleck have all returned, but it's farther up that we want to watch here between Ellis and Brophy. Brophy looking at the outside, coming into Lacombe, but he's not brave enough on the brakes as Ellis will hold on to that sixth position.
Ellis actually moving himself in front of Brophy right there as Brophy continues to fall back on that single stop strategy. Ellis has already stopped, so he's trying to claw his way back up to Challoner and Warling. Remember, he was in that third position before the pit stops, and he currently is about 7 seconds behind Christian Challoner, so he gained a second in that whole pit stop cycle. Not to say that that's going to get him back up to the back of those two guys up front, but he is doing a good job at cutting through traffic, whereas Christian Challoner was struggling.
We have it closer to that pit stop cycle happening for our drivers, splitting in half. Looks like we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drivers out of 25 starters are going to try and execute on this strategy. Listo and Swaby are not two of them. They've each taken a stop. They're also currently fighting for a top 10. Callisto being a former champion in this series. The talent has continued to increase and increase, and well, a former champion now is looking at a good day with a top 10 potentially.
Trying to hang on to the last position in what would be the F1 points. 10th position. Actually, I think they pay out to about 13th if they have a 26-car grid. But Lyndon Swaby looking to the inside here. Is he going to go side by side with him up Radion and Eau Rouge? No, he's not. He's going to stay in behind, possibly try and get that run. But Lionel Callisto not looking very quick at the moment in the straight line. Like I said, I think he's running that high trim setup. Swaby not with the greatest of runs, but look at him pull in the draft.
Not only pull, but be able to pop out. And he's going to try for the overtake. It'll have to be done on the brakes. The blue kinetic car does do it on the brakes and moves himself into 11th. Now, this may change, granted, because they have a number of drivers in front of them who haven't pitted yet that need to pit, but it doesn't look good on paper, at least for Callisto, because he started in 5th and he is down 6 positions in 11th right now.
Yeah, Callisto's late stop is not paying dividends for him. Mark Torres just made his way past Justin Morton for the 8th position. Mark Torres having pitted just 5 laps ago, Justin Morton having yet to pit. So now is the critical time for Steve Driscoll. This opens the window for that pit stop for Driscoll to come into the pits and get those extra set of tires and fuel. He decides to keep going, but this is we're into that pit window. It opens now.
Next one up would be Quinn, but he also stays out. Mueller and Brophy going to continue on. They are committed to that exact halfway point, the end of lap 22, it seems, which will be at the end of this one for all of our lead lap cars.
Yeah, so here we see Steve Driscoll still powering out up front. He's got 4.2 seconds on Andrew Waring. That is not a small amount. So I'm going to be curious to see whether this works out for any of these drivers, because it hasn't worked out in any of the other regions to get this one stop done. And it's really going to depend on how these one stoppers deal with the traffic that is at a relatively similar pace to them when they come back out. We've seen how hard it is to pass from what we saw with Christian Challoner and Liam Quinn. Liam actually having to let Christian by. So if Driscoll struggles with traffic, that's going to be the end of that strategy working out. And we know in Formula One how hard it is to pass, even on a massive drag track like this.
Just the unfortunate nature of the beast. We're watching Driscoll as he swings it through Fan Yeast, and it's back across the track quicker one more time into Stavilo. Really needing to punch the power down out of here. Flat out through Stavilo 2. Coming onto the stretch that leads up to Blanchimont. just starting this race in 11th, moved himself up through strategy, but he's got half the race left to go to see if this strategy will work. Let's see if he comes in pits this time.
Not this time, no. He stays out.
Could it be maybe he's thinking a lighter final stint?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you saw how quick Christian Schauner's machine was without with low fuel in it, so I think that's what he's thinking as well.
Trying to think here. So Waring has to pit one more time as well, and Driscoll only pitting one time. It'll depend, I think, on what happens between their pit stops. Can Waring put enough laps in to manage to leapfrog him?
Absolutely, and it's also going to depend on traffic, like I said, and I can hear in the back of my mind the questions coming up. Well, what makes it so hard to pass when it comes to these F1 cars? Well, as soon as you get within a second of the car ahead of you, actually a second and a half, your tires start to heat up. And when they heat up, it's really hard to get power down out of the corners, and it's really hard to keep the front end underneath you going into the corners. And as those tires heat up, you lose more and more grip, which costs you more and more time. And it means that your tires last not as long because you're building up tire temperature. So it really makes things difficult. But T12, Wade Hayes and Brian Barnes side by side.
Barnes not able to hold onto it, although he tries to come back in the braking into Lacombe. Wade Hayes denies him, puts a hand in his face. Barnes still shouldn't be too disappointed considering he started 24th, and he will now be demoted into 13th. That is 9 positions up, I believe.
Yeah, a couple of drivers on recovery drives. Eric Antilli actually in the number 35 machine, just making it by Robert Tarbox Jr., the driver you said was doing pretty well himself. Eric Antilli on his own recovery drive, making his way up there. And whoa, Steve Driscoll in the pits.
That's the end of the road for his fuel tank. The 51 trundles down at a measly 37 miles per hour. Quinn joins him. Brophy stays out. Wow. Brophy's got a very, very light right foot.
Yeah, definitely, because the one-stop box, here comes Justin Morton as well. The one-stop window, I believe, closes on this lap, so he's going to have to come in on this lap unless he's saving a ton of fuel. I'm not even sure whether this is the quickest way around, to be honest.
I'd be amazed if drivers didn't do their due diligence and research. As back out comes our former leader, Driscoll.
He's going to get passed by Callisto here.
So Callisto gets by, and he was in 8th place before. That'll promote him up to 7th.
So here's the thing. This is exactly what I was talking about. Steve Driscoll, that's actually kind of the worst case. Oh, that's Mark Torres in the grass right there.
And that was for position. Now, we've already seen one car lose it trying to accelerate out of Lacombe.
Oh, this is a bad incident.
Sends it in. It's just, you know what? Once again, curbs to the inside on that second apex. The car just didn't seem to like it at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, you try and put power down when the curves are like that, and the suspensions are so stiff in these F1 cars, you don't get any power down on the curves that are out there because they're slightly leveled. But Mark Torres trying to limp his way around, but he's got a long way to go, over half a lap to go to try and get that thing back in.
He knows it's still quicker for him to try and take the truck back there. He unfortunately is losing positions hand over fist at every corner. He's now down to 12th as he was just overtaken by Mueller. And Richardson is going to be the next one as he goes by up into that P12 spot.
So Driscoll trapped behind Callisto right now. He needs to get by Callisto as quick as possible because Driscoll is on a different tire strategy than him. He needs to be making faster lap times than Callisto in order to make this strategy work. That single stop strategy is contingent upon you being faster than the drivers you come out behind when they're on a different strategy than you. He's got to make this pass as soon as he possibly can.
Now he's not nearly close enough to make that pass. 0.6 of a second back on the Kemmel straight. Will not give him what he wants. Mark Torres and Jimbo Pfeiffer are in pits. And looks like Brian Barnes has finished his stop. He's able to make it to the end, we think, from here.
And that leaves Brophy as the only one out there. He's currently a lap over prediction, so he's definitely soft pedaling around there. I was wondering why his race pace was so slow early on. This might have all been strategy all along. He's currently up in the 4th position. If he pits now at 33 seconds, that's going to drop him well back into the mid 15s as far as his placement's concerned, but he will be on fresher tires than the rest of the groups around him. But that means he's going to have to be aggressive and be making a lot of passes.
Tires and probably about the same on fuel to boot. So in general, he'll have a net gain. There he goes. Brophy into pit lane. He takes it down to 37 miles an hour. Looks for his pit stall. Started this race in 8th within the top 10. So should be a little ways down. Richardson, a little bit of a fight for a top 10 now.
Yeah, he's tight in right now behind Dick Mueller, and Dick Mueller doing his best to try and hold off Richardson, but it's very tight. And actually, I want to jump up to P5 because I think Steve Driscoll might have the run on Lionel Kalisto this time around. He's definitely catching him on the straightaway. Steve Driscoll with a good opportunity to get that 6th position away and to really make progress here.
Down the inside, makes it look easy. Steve Driscoll takes that number 51 back up into the top 5. And again, we do not believe he needs to stop.
And here we go once again with Brophy and Richardson. Brophy, though, still even he's just having after his pit stop, he just doesn't have the pace right now on those cold tires. So Richardson able to get by.
Certainly takes a couple corners for them to get them into it. Did we have an issue? No, I thought we had a car that had spun because I saw some very slow speeds, but it was just going around the source. That turn is so sharp. Drivers certainly have to give it quite a bit of slowing down to make it work. We haven't checked in on the lead for a while. Let's take another glance at the lap comparison between Warren and Challoner before we get to the next stop. He's certainly in a much better range, but he's also got lap traffic between them.
Oh boy, Brian McGreevy just cut off Christian Challoner going up the Eau Rouge and Radion. That's going to slow down Challoner significantly, but there's the lap comparison. As you can see, looks like there was a mistake from Waring on the last lap that allowed Challoner to catch up. A little bit of rear gunning there. Christian Challoner weaving. He's not happy with the behavior from the lap car of Brian McGreevy.
Wouldn't be either. If I was fighting for a win here, fighting for a championship, Christian may have a buffer, but I know he is the type to want to dominate, to try and win everything just to seal the deal. 1.5 seconds now between the 336 and the 37.
One of our one-stop runners is getting really pressured right now. That's Liam Quinn getting pressured by Wade Hayes. Wade Hayes on 11-lap old tires. Liam Quinn on 3-lap old tires. And Wade Hayes is actually going to blow by him here on the Kemmel Straight. Here we go into the next couple of corners, and Wade Hayes already has the pass done. That is the worst-case scenario for Liam Quinn. On fresher tires, now tucked in behind a car that pitted earlier than him. He needs to be doing faster laps than these cars that pitted earlier than him.
This doesn't seem to be panning out. Liam Quinn has had an up and down year, that's for sure. I thought for sure that he would be one of those, especially coming in with the Kinetic team and the strength that they have shown. I thought that he would be one of our major players for the championship, but he's currently down in 7th, nearly 1,000 points behind Christian Challoner.
Yeah, he's had great top 10 finishes throughout most of this series, and that's no small feat in the majors at all. But he hasn't had the strength that I think a lot of people were expecting from him joining that Kinetic Racing team And I think that there might be just a little bit of growing pains, I guess, with jumping onto that team. But right now he is being very strong in this race. But I mean, this is such a challenge to be so successful at the majors. It makes the performance from drivers like Challoner or Waring or even Driscoll that more impressive.
Battle back there that I'm seeing. Yeah, between Mueller and Richardson, half a second between the two of them for 9th place, and Ryan Bennett is in the mix. If they start fighting, looks like he's not that far behind.
Well, Dick Mueller with a decent gap. He's going to have to gain a little bit here through Orange and Radion. Through Radion, he actually gains a little bit. I still think he might be a little bit too far back to take this battle to Richardson if Richardson doesn't want it to happen.
Get him in the background as we continue to follow Quinn, trailing behind Wade Hayes. So we are less than 20 laps to go. We still have all 5 cars out on track, and they are being led by Andrew Waring. This is the man on your screen right now, the unorthodox driver. Unorthodox, we've said it before this season, has really been showing themselves to be a step up from where they were in seasons past. They started to crack into the top 5 last season in that team's championship, and now suddenly they have drivers winning races. They are in the hunt to try and see if they can maybe steal the teams away from Kinetic, and boy, would that be maddening for Kinetic if finally the chance when Alliance does not show up to compete if they get snapped up by one of the other teams.
Well, I mean, Unorthodox realized the opportunity that was sitting there in front of them with Alliance disappearing off the grid. They thought to themselves, we could jump from 3rd to 1st if we play this right, and they have been playing it right. The drivers have been putting in the time and effort. It's been going very well for these drivers, and their performances have been ecstatic. Frankly, very stellar. I mean, look at this. Waring with 148.5 there. Let's jump back to Liam Quinn, though, because he's struggling a little bit right now. He's catching up to Wade Hayes, but
about a second and a half up to him. And to give you an idea, as far as the top 10 in the Americas Pro region goes, you've got Travis Warling, Steve Driscoll, as well as Kevin Hill. So 3 out of the top 10 belong to UDOX, whereas Kinetic, you've still got 3, but it's Christian Challoner up there at the top. Then you go down to Wade Hayes, and you have to go down to Liam Quinn, who we're on board with right now, who sits in 7th. So they're faring well, but considering of the top 3, there's only 1 Kinetic and 2 UDOX. That's concerning probably for that blue team.
Yeah, as you can see there, Wade Hayes actually pulling away a little bit from Liam Quinn on the lap comparisons. So Liam just not really having the pace under the extra fuel in these machines, and that one-stop strategy, just not sure how it's working for most of the drivers. The one driver who it may be working the best for is Justin Morton down in the 13th position, but he's not up there battling for the lead, unfortunately. So things are getting really tough for some of these one-stop drivers, and the two-stop drivers, they're coming up to their pit stop window shortly. It's about, if they're going to do it, it's going to be about 15 laps. So we're going to take a look at Christian Challoner right now. He's 1.5 behind Waring and trying to keep that gap tight. It's just tight between those two drivers. I mean, Christian took about 2/10 out of him last lap, but Waring keeps putting in these purple laps every once in a while, and that makes things hard for Christian Challoner to keep up.
I wonder if this is sheer pace between the two, if they are just straight up pushing out there, or is Challoner maybe struggling in the wake of Waring? Is this second and a half that we've been seeing from much of it, is that kind of the buffer that he's experiencing and can't seem to get much closer?
I'm not sure whether the wake is necessarily the problem. It seems like whenever he gets up to 2 seconds, he starts putting in some stopping laps, but like we said, this is that final little bit of the stint with these two stop runners, and so that's when Christian Challoner's car seems to be at its best. And here we go. Waring's in. Christian's actually going to stay out. It looked like he was thinking about coming in, but he's actually going to stay out for one more lap. I think he realizes that his pace is better on low fuel, and he's going to try and stretch this low fuel as far as it can go.
Pushing hard out of the bus stop. The tail was just wagging on that Williams. Ellis also continues on, but I get the feeling this might also be the fact, well, Christian knows if he's not catching him these first two stints by doing the same thing he is, might as well try and do something different.
Absolutely, and when he's faster on low fuel than Waring is, Waring's thinking, I need to fill this thing up because I'm faster on the higher fuel settings. And Christian's thinking to himself, I need to go as long as I can to keep as little fuel in this fuel tank as possible when I take my second stop, and that way I'm as fast as I possibly am. So now we are on two different, well, they're the same strategy, but two different interpretations of the strategy at this point, as Wade Hayes comes into the pit lane, leaving Liam Quinn to jump up to 8th.
Incredibly, nobody else has pitted, and Warren and Challoner were pushing so hard, he only fell to 3rd after that pit stop. Only Ellis overtook him. Swaby is close behind, mind you, but it seems that the number 100 still has a lot to do here in this race, as he is still short a pit stop on the number 336 and finds himself only just now behind him. We ride on board. Took a lot of curb through no name.
Yeah, and Lyndon Swaby's going to have to do some work to try and get up to Andrew Waring. Waring, you can see just how quick he is on those fresh tires and full fuel. Looks like he definitely set his car up to be ready for this race for sure. Now remember, unlike F1, there is not parc fermé rules when it comes to these cars and setting them up for the race and for qualifying. So they're able to have separate setups for the qualifying and the race. And you can see that Andrew Waring has definitely set his car up to be better on full fuel than Christian Challoner, who's into the pits now.
By the way, Eric Antilli also took a stop. Yeah, I don't know how they would enforce it. Maybe if iRacing could add that as a feature, but I would love to see the possibility of parc fermé enforced on cars. Challoner in, looking for a short stop. Warren was 8.4, and it is a short stop. It's about a second quicker. Warren is behind him, and I think Challoner's got it.
Challoner's got about 1.6 on him going up towards Eau Rouge and Radion. He's got to keep that gap, though. He's got to be as aggressive as he's ever been in this machine, because we know how strong Waring is on that full fuel. Christian Challoner's going to have to put in some stalking laps to try and stay ahead of Waring right now. And Alex Ellis still leads, though.
Just incredible. You called it, knowing that light fuel was going to help Christian Challoner. Got the call to push. And push he did, with just a second between them. So Richardson is now in. We're getting the last of our two stoppers executing. Looks like Richardson is going to exit out around P13. Let's check in on the battle for 8th, because we've got Brophy still dealing with Dick Mueller. These two have been glued at the hip for almost this entire race.
Yeah, and Brophy is just trying to stay ahead of Dick Mueller. Brophy's race pace, remember, Brophy's on that one-stop strategy, so every position he loses at this point is a position he's losing on track. Well, that being said, I don't believe that Dick Mueller has come in. No, they're both on the one-stop strategy, so this is definitely a race for position on track right now. There's not going to be a pit stop for either of these guys in between this.
Alex Ellis is in. That means that the lead is going to get handed back to Christian Challoner. I think the chase is on. Warren's got it down to about 9/10 of a second, so small gains here since they last came back by this point on the track.
And I've got really, really bad news for Christian Challoner. Next car that he has to lap is Brian McGreevy, who is a teammate to Andrew Waring. And I'm not saying that there's any team strategy going on as far as blocking is concerned, but after what Christian saw a couple laps earlier, I think he's going to be worried about that.
Now, to maybe make a counterpoint to that, and not to take any of the drama out of it, I will say that we've seen in the past that the major teams seem to be focused on fair play out here. It doesn't seem like anybody really is trying to get get it into Indy dirty tricks out on the track, if I can get those words out. But he's closing fast, and we'll get the answer soon. Unfortunately, he's catching him in a part of the track where you really don't want to be catching lap traffic, because now he's really getting a lot of dirty air.
Yep, and that's closed the gap down to Waring, as you can see, down to about half a second. Waring very strong here through the twistier sections, especially under that extra fuel load. Christian Challenger is going to be begging to get by Brian. He's going to try and look around the outside. Now he swaps him over and goes up the inside. Brian is just going to pull over to the left side of the road, let Christian go through, and Andy's going to let Andrew Waring go through. Christian's going to be cursing him as he goes by. Not that that was a dirty move or anything like that, but it did hold him up long enough that, oh, Waring's off track. Ooh, that was scary.
You know what? I think that's the first time we've seen Waring have to go through these corners that close to another car, as Christian Challenger once again spins up the rear tires coming off of the bus stop. We've seen that multiple times. That's got to be a little bit of a concern for the 37.
Wow, Waring taking, oh my goodness, they're so very different strategies coming through La Source, both working out equally, but Waring is right in that perfect draft lock. He's about 0.5 behind, and now if he can get through Aruj and Radion cleanly, he does. Look at the speed he has already coming off of that corner. He's going to be able to pass him as they get down halfway. It's going to be Christian in the middle of the road. Waring's going to have to go to the outside. Is Christian going to try and outbrake him?
Try. Oh, they're going to go side by side.
Oh,
no! With big net code, and Christian Challenger finds himself in the wall. I'm not sure this car can drive back.
Unbelievable. Christian Challenger in the battle for the win. A gigantic netcode, almost a car length of netcode between these two guys.
Watch the replay. Yeah, and they're talking a little bit over the chat. Both of them, really no blame on either one of them, because this looked like great racing. And it's a shame that Challenger has taken the brunt of it. Well, this is, if anything, Travis Warling is having a little bit of a gift coming his way, because Challenger's trying to drive it back. Warling did the same, but the Challenger looks like he's going along at a decent clip despite missing that rear wing.
I mean, to be honest, Joe, he looks none worse for the wear based upon his driving. A little bit slow through that sector, so looks like missing that rear wing really doesn't matter that much to the FW31.
I think his suspension came.
Oh, never mind.
Whoa. Big catch there for the 37.
Guess I was wrong.
Yeah. I was going to say, Warling, I know, was really struggling in a few corners. I think his suspension got hit pretty badly, and so he found himself off course, just not able to turn the car, whereas Challenger is relatively intact on the corners. It's going to take his spare car. This is going to hurt his points haul today. Where is he going to come out is a question. Let's step away from that a little bit, because Dick Mueller, who was trying to close in on Brophy, has got to start looking in his mirrors now, because here comes Swaby calling out Mueller. Anybody?
That's definitely true. Swaby very strong right now on that two-stop strategy. Dick Mueller and Brophy up ahead of him on the one-stop. Now, I gotta be honest, that single-stop strategy, now that Christian Challenger is out, is looking pretty good right now. Steve Driscoll only 3 seconds behind Alex Ellis, and Driscoll is on the single-stop strategy. So things looking very interesting now as far as the one-stop is going. But that being said, this is what we saw exactly in the other regions as well. The best that the one-stop people could get is third place, and they were about 10 seconds behind the leader, and that's looking like that might be the case in this race as well.
Forward with Swaby continuing to try to hunt down Mueller. Let's stick with this, but I can give a report that Challenger returned in 10th, so minimal damage considering how bad that could have been. He's got 12 seconds to make up to the next car. Also, you mentioned Driscoll. Well, he is now sitting the best of our front runners in the points. He's third on track. He's third in the points right now. So he is going to gain on both of the cars ahead of him.
Yeah, he's definitely got a big gap in front of him and behind him to try and maintain. So he's definitely just looking at setting some ideal lap times right now. And most of these drivers are. The exception is Dick Mueller, who's being hunted by Lyndon Swaby, as we're seeing right now.
Starting to get a little bit equidistant here among the three.
Dick Mueller getting very loose as he was under braking for the bus stop chicane, so those rear tires are not going to be happy right now. So Lyndon Swaby tastes blood in the water. He goes a little bit too deep there into La Source.
And 10 laps to go at this point. Mueller may be feeling a little bit of the pressure, maybe feeling the tires, since he's been out on that one stopper, and Swaby has not. He's on that fresher rubber, and he's got a great run off of Eau Rouge. Here we go. Mueller doesn't cover off the inside, at least not initially. He's going to leave it open for Lyndon. Pegleg's going to, cleanly outbrake him. Very strong into the corner and covers him off. Lyndon's up to 7th now.
Yeah, Mueller backed it off a little bit. He's looking at he's probably hearing in his ears that Lyndon is on a different strategy from him. Doesn't want to hold up Dick. But that being said, everyone's taking their pit stops at this point. So at this point, you're just racing for on-track position. And I don't know about you, but my team's never happy with me whenever I give up a spot like that.
Well, I don't think, I'm trying to remember if we've seen Mueller this high up in other races. He has been competing in the pro splits recently, and I want to say he was in the last one at Knoxville, but I'm trying to recall what his highest finish has been thus far. An 8th place actually might be a good accomplishment for him. We'll double check the stats on that later. With now 8 laps to go, way up the road, Andrew Waring with Christian Challoner out of the picture now. Only has Alex Ellis 5.5 seconds behind him. So really under no threat. And then it's another 5 seconds back to Driscoll. So the top of the field is essentially just looking to cruise on down to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and Waring, Ellis was only about 3 seconds behind Waring and Challoner when he came out of the pits, but he's lost about 2.5 ever since doing that, unfortunately. So he's got a long way to go to try and catch up to Waring, who's been the fastest car on track multiple times. That being said, Christian Challoner right now holds the fastest lap of the race down there in the 10th position, and he's unfortunately not climbing that much. He still has about 12 seconds to catch up to the back of Justin Morton for the 9th spot, so I don't think Christian's going to be making any more progress this race.
Fascinating to see how the strategies have played out as well on track, because if you think about Lionel Kalisto, he's actually in 4th. Now, it would have been a 5th before Challoner had his wreck, but even still, remember, he seemed like he was kind of dropping back. We watched him lose positions and lose battles. Well, he's on that one-stop strategy, so I kind of wonder if he was just kind of babying those tires, just nursing them up to where he could get to that stop. And now, as we approach 7 laps to go very soon, the number 2 is just outside the podium, but unfortunately a good distance away from the podium physically on track, as he's got 6.5 seconds up to Driscoll. But even still, 4th place is no mean feat in this series.
Riding on board with Alex Ellis. Ellis doing an excellent job. He's up 8 positions from the starting position of 10th, and now up into that top 2. I mean, he's just been so strong and consistent all race, but with Christian Challoner and Andrew Waring taking off into the distance in that clean air, he just had no opportunity to get it up to them. He had to battle for all these positions throughout the beginning of this race, all the way in until he got up into 3rd. And now he's just been riding along trying to make lap times, but Waring is just so quick. That being said, Ellis is gaining on Waring about 0.5 a lap. It's not going to be enough to catch him, but he can see Waring at the end of the Kendall Straight right now.
We might just be managing things from here on out, just making sure to get the car home. What if we could pull up our biggest movers as well? Talking about Ellis going from 10th to 2nd, Driscoll from 11th to 3rd as well. Justin Morton from 20th to 9th is up 11 spots, and then you see a few in the mid-pack who come close to that. Wade Hayes obviously gaining quite a few, and then Brian Barnes, look at that, from 24th to 15th. It might be in the mid, but he's doing a very, very good run up the field.
Justin Richardson catching up to the back of Wade Hayes actually right now, and look at this, Richardson with a decent run out of the corner. He's got to straighten that thing out. He's got enough speed. Here comes that classic pass. He's trying to decide where to go. They decides a little bit late. That was pretty close there. Let's see whether Wade defends. Wade does not. Richardson up to 11th.
Richardson started this race in 4th, so he's honestly on a climb back forwards. Wade Hayes probably kind of knew that he didn't have the pace to hold him behind. So he just got back to the racing line, and Hayes now demoted to 12th place.
And our single stop runners right now are running currently in 3rd with Steve Driscoll, in 5th place with Liam Quinn. Jason Brophy in 6th place. Actually, it's staying out longer did in fact help him. Then we have Dick Mueller in 8th, Justin Morton in 9th. Then we have both Mark Torres and Brian Barnes in 14th and 15th, and Jimbo Pfeiffer 18th. And then we have the drivers who had struggles: Brian McGreevy, David Warner, and Adam Halleck. Kalisto into the pits. Interesting. I didn't think he went long enough on his first stop to be able to do it on just one stop, so unfortunately he's having to pit again on lap 38.
Called it too early, it seems. So his strategy will send him backwards. Quinn gets promoted up to 4th. Brophy into the top 5 here. Swaby up to 6th. Mueller up to 7th. Kalisto is out, and he's going to come out just ahead of Christian Challenger. So Christian might have a little bit of hope, because I think he'll be about 7 seconds behind Kalisto here.
That's a ways to make up, especially when Kalisto's going to have fresh tires. It's going to be tough for him to try and catch up there, but take a look at this. Liam Quinn starting to get caught now by Jason Brophy for that 4th position.
Brophy's been a steady force in this race. Been holding off drivers, been making attacks, and now he's looking at one more potentially. Boy, the gap between the podium and the rest of the field with Challenger, excuse me, not Challenger, with Kalisto now pitting is 20 seconds from 3rd to 4th. It is just massive.
And throw Lyndon Swaby into this mix for the 4th position, because he's gaining pretty quickly as well. So Jason Brophy kind of running his own race the entire time, letting guys by, passing people when he needed to. He never really fought for a position, but here he is up in 5th just on strategy alone. And here comes Lyndon Swaby. There goes Alex Ellis with the fastest lap of the race, and he's actually gaining on Waring significantly. It's down to 3.7 seconds. I'm not sure that's going to be enough to get to catch up to Waring for the lead, but Alex is really giving it a shot here.
Here's what's interesting. He's also racing for Satellite, which is what Christian Challenger is, the team that he's racing for, which is sort of a sister team to Kinetic, we understand, related to them. Came out of Black Adder, which Kinetic did as well.
You can see how much Ellis is on the edge. He's twitching through these corners. He's pushing that thing as hard as it can go. He's already chopped another 4/10 off of Waring just in that sector alone. Christian Challenger, fastest lap of the race himself. So a lot of people with a little bit of motivation at the end of this thing.
If they got on the radio between themselves and Christian told him, well, it's on you now, bud, to carry the torch for the team. And Ellis has turned up the wick. Certainly seems to have a great car underneath him. 5 laps to go, 2.5 seconds. Gotta wonder, is fuel maybe a factor here?
Wow. Okay, so that is a second gone on this lap alone from Ellis. I mean, if he keeps gaining at this rate and Waring doesn't respond, Ellis will definitely have him by the time we get to the last 2 laps. He might even have him on the next lap if Waring isn't careful. I think Waring's starting to respond, though. He's definitely increased his pace in the last sector. So Ellis has his work cut out for him, but he's putting in maximum effort right now.
Last lap of 49.540 for Waring. Ellis of 48.5. A second quicker. I think he had a little bit of a bobble through the source there, and it's gone back up to 2.8 now. He can't afford that with this few of laps left. Oh, and Kalisto and Morton are side by side. Kalisto's going to come out ahead into 8th position. Fresh tires for the number 2 car, making him quite quick out there in the dying stages.
Oh, we actually had a wreck between Lyndon Swaby and Dick Mueller, unfortunately. No, Jason Brophy. Lyndon Swaby and Jason Brophy got together on the braking for LaSource. And I believe Lyndon Swaby overdid it into the braking zone. We'll see it here.
It's not that he got a run on him or anything. There's a little bit of ghost contact between them, I will say. We didn't see it from that angle. The man who took advantage of all of that is Dick Mueller. in the 84. He finds himself now with a sudden top 5.
And that actually breaks up our battle a little bit between Liam Quinn. I mean, Dick Mueller was a good 5 seconds behind these guys, and now he's up ahead of Lyndon Swaby, who's going to have to regain those positions. Brophy, not happy with Swaby, is caught up behind him, but back to the lead battle. Waring has responded. He's keeping that gap out at about 2.5 seconds.
Maybe it was just managing his pace, and Alex had to put the pressure on just to get him to hustle. We're going to be 3 laps to go now. Let's see what the time is between them. 48.7 across the line for Waring. Ellis with a 48.5, 0.2 quicker.
I could just hear in my ears right now the IndyCar crew chief saying, "I need 1 lap of fuel saving and then you can go." And I think Andrew paid the piper, and now he's off to the races once again. Ellis still a little bit faster, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough.
Going to have to make more inroads than 0.2 per lap with only 3 to go. For those wondering about Brophy and Swaby, they continue on. Swaby in 6 and Brophy in P7. Now, they were swapped around before that incident, weren't they? Was Brophy ahead of Swaby?
Brophy was ahead of Swaby, and Swaby got into the back of Brophy. Brophy trying to recover now and try and catch up to the back of Swaby. It's not going to happen this lap. He's just a little bit too far back. But you be sure that Brophy's not going to be a very happy driver under the helmet.
But, I mean, my thought would be that Swaby would have maybe handed the position back just to avoid the ire of the stewards. But it seems like he has no mind to try and worry about that. He's just going to take it and run and let what happens happens.
Yeah, the stewarding body of the majors tends to look on incidents regardless of who comes out on top of it, so I don't think it would benefit Swaby any to let him by even if Swaby's at fault.
And Andrew Waring coming down to complete another. It's 2.2 seconds. It's continuing to shrink between himself and Alex Ellis. And now he's got lap traffic in the form of Adam Halleck in front of him across the line. A 48.8 for Waring. Ellis with a 48.4. 4 more tenths knocked off.
And Waring has a ton of traffic, but that being said, he has a ton of draft as well. But look at this. Halleck actually moving over is going to hurt Waring here, because Waring was actually going to be relying on that draft up through La Source and through Radion and Eau Rouge here. And look at this. Here, see how much faster Halleck is tucked in behind Waring? I think Waring was hoping for that draft as well. So Alex Ellis down to 2 seconds now with 2 laps to go.
Is a lightning fast car for the 225. Just unfortunate that it took until the end of the race for it to come alive, and it seems to be too little too late.
He's going to have to navigate Adam Halleck now, who Waring just got past like we saw, and he's going to have to do it in one of the toughest parts of the track. Halleck's actually going to move over there. That should give Ellis a little bit of an advantage. So Ellis free and clear now. Well, now he's got Jimbo Pfeiffer tucked in behind him. Jimbo Pfeiffer moved over for Waring. So all this lap traffic starting to have a significant play in how this is turning out.
I'm a bit surprised. Despite this being a long lap around here, I would have thought we'd have more lapped cars. It's up to 19th. Nick Kuhn, currently the last car on the lead lap. Oh, this is really bad timing for Alex Ellis as he eventually dodges around Jimbo Pfeiffer.
I'm not sure about that one. I think Jimbo could have given that up a little bit easier like he did with Waring. But Ellis now still 2 seconds coming to the final lap. I mean, something's going to have to go really bad for Waring in order for Ellis to make this work.
Still gained in spite of that. Looks like it's going to be 2 tenths quicker. Actually, more than that this time by Waring, 48.9. Ellis, 48.6. 3 tenths faster on that lap.
So here we go, the final time up through Eau Rouge and Red. Well, second to final time is the penultimate lap of this race. But look at this. Challoner and Morton, it's very close. Challoner's been able to close that 6-second gap up to Morton. Morton's tire is definitely off. And he's just going to get slingshot by Christian Challoner.
Challoner, both of them off into the AstroTurf a little bit, straddling that curb. And damage limitation for Christian. puts him back into ninth. 5 seconds up to Callisto. This is where the train stops, I'm afraid. Battle for 6 continues. Swaby and Brophy within half a second. Let's watch this up the Kimmel Straight just to see if Brophy gets the run he needs.
Should be close enough.
Ooh, yeah, this is looking good. As we watch from above, the yellow machine of Brophy gains. He gains. Is there going to be a defense? No defense there from the kinetic car. He gets to the inside, and he's going to have to finish the move. Nicely done by Brophy to claim P6.
Great job. Don't think that Swaby's done yet, though. He's really pressuring right now onto the back of Brophy, but Brophy, I believe, has got him into the braking zone, into no name, and I think he should be able to take away with this. Lionel Callisto has joined that battle, though, but the lead is tight. 0.8 of a second.
But Andrew Warren just has to make one more corner. Through the final chicane, in the bus stop. He's tidy through there for the final time. Ellis may have caught up, but Warren held him off for the win here at the Belgian Grand Prix. The latest round in the majors, Ellis with second, and Steve Driscoll a distant third, 22 seconds behind.
Fastest lap for Ellis on the final lap of the race, a 1:48.157. We'll wait for Christian Challenger, but look at this battle for P6. Swaby running away with it. Sorry, Brophy running away with it. Swaby and Callisto side by side.
Callisto, get up here. What in the world? He has just suddenly appeared, but Swaby holds him off. He's going to try and outbrake him down into the chicane. They swap back and forth, and it's going to be a drag race to the line. A little bit of wheel spin from Swaby. Is this enough from Callisto? No! Half a car length back.
Brian Barnes and Mark Torres are the last ones really having a battle. This is for P14, and they're just coming through the switchbacks now, heading into the final sector of the course. Mark Torres, his car's looking not too happy right now. They're both on the same pit strategy, so they both have the same age of tires. Let's see whether Mark can keep his head above water here.
Right on board with Torres. He started in 12th and sitting in 14th, a little bit down. Big gain from Brian Barnes, but he took it a little wide coming through Blanchimont. That denies him the opportunity to try and make an attack here into the last braking event of the lap. So he settles for P15 as Torres comes home 14th, and everybody else behind them looks to be slotting home.
Here's Eric Antilli on his recovery drive, unfortunately, from that earlier spin. He does make his way up to 16th, having passed Robert Tarbox Jr. a couple of laps ago. That's as far as he can go. P17, actually, for Eric Antilli.
Behind them, Tarbox and Kuhn, close but no cigar between them, as that's the last of our lead lap drivers. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you watch on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. We just watched the Majors Grand Prix of Belgium. And this round went to Andrew Waring with a victory starting from second, taking the lead away at the start, and then showing everybody how it's done. He did have to fight for it, but it wasn't with Alex Ellis, at least until the very end, who was closing and was half a second behind. And Alex maybe should have started that run to the finish a little bit earlier, but still 10th to second is nothing to be ashamed of there. The last of the podium was rounded out by Steve Driscoll, who made a similar climb for UDocs, going from 11th to 3rd. Liam Quinn, 13th to 4th, one better than that for the Kinetic driver. Dick Mueller taking advantage of a few other people's woes and getting himself up into 5th place. Jason Brophy, a late race incident sends him back to 6th when it could have been much higher. Lyndon Swaby, same thing. He was involved in that wreck and wound up exactly where he started in 7th place. Lionel Callisto with an 8th place, so an unusual two-stop strategy for him. And then Christian Challoner was the one that was fighting Andrew Waring. He started on the pole. He managed to jump him in the last of the pit stops, and then it came down to a fight that went south, and he wound up in 9th in the end. The last of the top 10 went to Justin Morton.
Justin Morton was our biggest mover of the day, and now it goes down to Justin Richardson, who himself did not have the greatest race on a recovery drive all day, comes home in 11th. Wade Hayes gaining positions from his starting spot down there in the 19th spot, comes home with 12th, as well as Brian Bennett moving himself up to 13th. Mark Torres down there in the 14th position, just ahead of Brian Barnes, and Bradley Haley gained a couple of spots up to 16th with Eric Antilli on his recovery drive, only able to recover to the 17th spot. Robert Tarbox Jr., we saw his incident a little bit later on. He had another spin that happened coming out of the final chicane that ended up losing him more spots. He's gone down to 18th position. Then we get Nick Kuhn in 19th, and Jimbo Pfeiffer, our first driver, a lap down in 20th.
21st went to Travis Warling, a lap down. Brian McGreevy, 22nd, along with him. Adam Halleck, 23rd, 2 laps down, along with Warner, also 2 laps down to 24th. And Austin Espedy looks to be our only DNF today. If not, he unfortunately had to do a lot of repairs just to come back and see that checkered flag. But the man that saw the checkered flag first was Andrew Warren, and it's his first time being first this season. Andrew, congratulations. I have to ask, with the speed that we've seen out of you, what made it happen today over the other rounds?
Just a combination, I think, of me being a little bit more comfortable with higher downforce cars. Still not familiar with the Williams, but I just get on with them really well, it seems. And Spa's a great track. It really flows well, and the setup that UDocs provided for the car was phenomenal. I've made a fair share of mistakes, that's for sure, but thankfully was able to hang on.
Let's go to that controversial moment, unfortunately, where we saw on our end, at least, a little bit of ghost contact between yourself and Christian Challoner. What's your take on the coming together in Lacombe?
Well, first of all, I know Christian was going to race me clean, and so when I, approached him from the outside, I definitely ran deep into that corner. But on the recovery, I tried to stay to the closest to the curb as I could. I definitely feel like there was some netcode involved because, unfortunately, all I saw and felt was Christian's car just tumbling in the air. And I got the 6X or something like that, but I received no damage. I received no feedback from my wheel. And I got a couple of direct messages saying it was some pretty big netcode. So it's unfortunate that happened. It definitely ruined a climax to what was shaping up to be a great race.
It is unfortunate, especially between you two. Now, I know no drivers like talking about what ifs unless it was what if I could have won that race. But what would have happened if you two could battle to the line? Do you think you had the pace to outrun him?
I think Alex Ellis clearly showed that I didn't. I very much overfueled that car. I think it was like 35 pounds heavier, and when Christian came out of the pits, I had to react as quickly as I could. So at the time I didn't know it, but I feel like if even if I were to get past him, he's probably a lot more strategic and smarter with the way he fueled his car, and I feel like he probably would have driven around me for sure because I was struggling that last stint with combination of a heavy car, really, really bad nerves, as this is a big race, and maybe some damage. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the car yet.
explains that. We wondered why Alex was able to catch you so much there at the end. Again,
Yeah.
congratulations on your first victory of the season. Before we let you go, who got this one done?
Definitely UDocs, Travis Worling, Steve Driscoll, and Matt Gelder for running the team. They put an awesome car together. And in qualifying, we were definitely really quick, and in the race, we laid out a great strategy with a lot of hard work from the whole team. You guys got it done for broadcasting. I always appreciate it, and definitely the majors, Mike and all the crew chiefs and all the committee. They really do a fantastic job, and it's shaking how good this feels right now. And hopefully, the stewards decide what happened, but it is a good win for me.
Glad to hear a driver just so thrilled about a win. And of course, Ellis might not be as thrilled, but Adam Lindgren's going to talk to him to see how he feels about this second place and being maybe about a lap or two shy.
Yeah, Alex, you had a fairly quiet race out there, just riding around by yourself, setting good lap times. But when it came to the end, after everything happened between Christian and Andrew, you had some serious pace there. How close do you think you were to getting up to the lead and battling with Andrew?
Yeah, it was a really good race. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, so close to getting Andrew at the end. Starting in 11th place didn't help because it really set me I guess on the back foot for that first stint. So you could see through my lap times I was getting quicker and quicker as the race went on. Because what I actually did was I was heavy fuel at the start, medium fuel run in the middle, and then a little bit lighter of a fuel run at the end. So that was how I had that speed. But just one more lap, and I think I could have had him.
And do you think those extra laps you were able to run in those first and second stints were able to set you up with the clean air there, or was it just your raw pace that was improving because of the lighter fuel that made you faster?
To be honest, I think it was really good. The long stint at the start was good because I stayed in open air, so I was able to just bang out quick laps. It honestly felt like quali lap after quali lap. But the only bad thing was I was like, I think like 8 or 9 seconds off the lead, about 5 laps in, just because I was having to work through that traffic. So the rest of the race went pretty perfect. It just wasn't quite enough to close the gap.
And do you think you were? I mean, the stats say that you were the fastest driver on low fuel. You got that final lap as the fastest lap of the race, a 1:48.157. But do you think that was your true pace compared to Andrew, or do you think he was backing off later on in the run?
No, I knew that I was at least his pace. And I think, like, so basically, if you look at one individual lap, I know that we were about the same speed. But when you string together, say, 15, 16 laps, I know that I had a bit of an advantage there in terms of consistency and banging out basically every lap as my quickest, as opposed to 2 or 3 tenths here and there. So to be honest, everything was great. I just ran out of laps. But what sucked was I was hoping that Christian and Andrew battling would allow me to catch them even quicker, right? Because if they were kind of tripping over each other, I knew I was going to catch them in a matter of a few laps. And it would have been really fun to have a 3-horse race at the front. But still, it was fun as it was.
Well, Alex, great finish today. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, for sure. All the guys at Satellite Racing, Cyandra especially helped a lot with the setup. But yeah, they're a great group of guys, and I wouldn't have been able to run nearly as competitively without them.
All right, that was Alex Ellis, our second place finisher today, and it looks like Joe has caught up with Steve Driscoll, who came home with a different strategy and came home in third.
Our first driver to finish with a single stop strategy. But before we get to that, let's turn our attention to the championship, Steve. You are the highest among the top three in the points to finish here today, but it's down in third. Are there mixed feelings, or is it all smiles on the podium?
Oh no, all smiles. Pretty much, I was kind of like a trash collector today, kind of just picking up the trash, just kind of picking up for other people's mistakes, and just kind of taking advantage of it. I wasn't expecting anything more than say P5, P6, starting from P11 there. So I'm actually really excited and happy with the result.
This, of course, will allow you to close in on them. But turning back to the race and to that strategy, what made you decide to go for the one stopper? We had heard from drivers that it was mathematically supposed to be faster, but then it seemed a lot of people preferred the two stop. What swayed you to just a single pit stop?
Well, in the motto of unorthodox, it's do something different. I figured everybody else was going to do a two stop. Might as well do something different. I know I had to kind of keep an eye on the rear tires because there was a couple of corners there, especially with the high wind we were having, where it made it a little bit interesting on a lighter fuel. But I just thought, let's just do something different. I'm starting P11. Let's just kind of methodically go through the field. And when you're with that heavy fuel load and you only have one stop, you don't go all out. You just kind of go into that 95% pace and just collapse away and just see where it ends. And end result is after I saw Christian and everybody after the first pit stop, I thought I had a pretty good chance to be in the podium or at least top 3 or 4 there.
This week was a very difficult high-powered car with a lot of downforce, but next week we're going to a very difficult high-powered car with almost no downforce. We're into the Silver Crown. What are your thoughts heading off to Indianapolis Raceway Park?
I'm looking forward to go to. It's kind of a home track for me, being only about 45 minutes away from IRP, and I did pretty well last time the major series visited Phoenix with the Silver Crown cars, so I'm kind of excited about it. And looking forward to what Unorthodox can do to, put ourselves in the top 5, top 10 next race.
We'll keep an eye out for those very 80s themed cars, and we look forward to seeing how you fare on the ovals. Congratulations on a third today.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Steve Driscoll, who went from 11th to 3rd. That unorthodox philosophy certainly seemed to pay off. So we're going to close out, of course, with a big thank you to the majors for bringing us back for another season of coverage and also for the charity work that they did. Again, if you want to check out the charity, it is childfund.org. I got a link in the description below if you want to contribute yourself. We also want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Adam, and Doug. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media, which has a Twitter channel that's at GSR Channel, a Facebook channel, which is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram as well, which is GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store. It's just linked in the description as well. It's gsrc.storynv.com. And while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the channel. As we mentioned, the next race heads over to Indianapolis, but not the oval that we watched today on TV. It's Indianapolis Raceway Park. The Silver Crowns, as I mentioned, that will be Sunday, September 13th at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. If you stick around, if you're over here in the U.S. and you're a night owl, you can watch some BMWs race with the BMW Race Driver E Series coming up in just a few hours' time. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.